Opportunity by Jet Howitzer. The colt looked down at the scrap of paper on his desk. He should be paying attention to what the teacher was saying, but his heart was busy enough with other things to keep his mind away from the lecture. He was at the point of his life where fillies were beginning to have a new meaning to him, but he had no way to act upon it. His heart told him one thing, while his mind told him another. He slowly brought his pen to the paper scrap, and moved it in a line downwards. This line not straight, but good enough. Another set of two lines perpendicular to the first went above and below, completing the first letter. With a slight change in his position in his seat, he managed to catch a glimpse of the filly who had unknowingly stolen his heart. Her purple irises were half covered by her eyelids as she struggled to pay attention to the teacher, and she went on and on about whatever the lesson for today was. Small colt couldn't care less what she was rambling about, since he had other things on his mind and in his heart. Colt's pen once again touched the scrap, and made yet another trip down the page, stopping once it had traveled the same length as before. Without lifting from the paper, it made a sharp turn to the right before traveling a shorter length. Thusly, the second letter was formed. The colt glanced down the scrap for a moment, actually looking at what he had written. He knew what he wanted to write, but as he actually looked at it, his mind shouted at him that he was a colt, and that she was a filly. It just didn't work. Things like cooties and the mocking laughter of his friend made themselves known, but his heart shouted louder, demanding the colt's attention. His shaky pen made contact with the paper once again, causing the colt to move the pen up of his own volition. As it traced the worst circle in the history of geometry, the colt felt the conflict within his body escalate. The teacher called out the colt's name, and he abruptly looked up, spouting out a random number, hoping that he was answering a question. The sound of laughter quickly erupted from the other students in the class, bringing an intense blush to the face of the innocent colt. The teacher gave a warm smile to the student, but her eyes spoke of her annoyance. She quickly explained her question again, and this time the colt managed to answer it correctly, earning a second smile from the teacher. For several minutes after the colt paid attention to what was being said, the trials of his heart forgotten. Sadly, like most children, the colt's mind was due to wonder, so he found himself exploring the depths of his imagination. The wonders of the world opened to him. Everything from depths of the sea to wide open skies was the domain to play in his mind, and everywhere he went the filly followed. She was always there, enjoying the scenery with him, going on all the fantastic adventures with the colt. The ringing of the bell for lunch shattered the concentration of the colt, and as he looked down at the paper he saw that he had written yet another letter. This one two slanted lines connected at the bottom. As the class filed out of the room, the colt found himself taking far longer than usual to get up from his seat, his own heart shouting at him to finish and give it to the filly. Without thought, the colt left behind his pen and the note, rushing through the door to head outside before he could allow himself a chance to finish. Once outside the small school building, the colt found his imagination taking the reins once again. Much like before, though, Philly was always there. Unlike before, though, she was actually present as you played around, and you found that her presence was quite enjoyable, that her two friends were just as much fun to be around as she was. To his juvenile mind, the 45-minute-long lunch break felt like mere moments. And so when the bell rang once again, the students all let out a collective groan as they trudged back inside. Colt lingered out on the playground as his classmates began to head inside. He noted, though, that the filly was the target of his affection was lingering behind as well. She gave the colt a quick wave before she came over, and walked up to the school beside him, going on and on about how she was going to be a great flyer one day. Without even realizing it, the colt had earned another friend through the recess, simply by ignoring the few calls of his other friends. class after lunch was even more boring to the colt, since history had no appeal to him at all. It was all just a bunch of ponies arguing over who deserved what land, and how to best divide it up. Arguing and land. That's all history was. Well, then some fighting when no diplomatic solution came about. The colt bear listened, though, as his mind turned back to the argument it was having with his heart. His heart was winning the battle, and for some reason the colt was okay with this. A whispered call garnered the attention of the colt, and he glanced over the colt beside him, who was holding a folded-up piece of paper. Quick as could be, the love-struck colt snatched the paper from the hoof of his friend, making sure the teacher didn't see. He quickly unfolded it, and was pleased to see that it was a plan for a massive game outside of school today. For just a moment the colt felt confused as his mind asserted dominance over his heart. The scrap of paper the colt had been writing on drew his attention for a moment, and he saw that he finished the second of the two words that would be written. If he didn't take this moment to say what he had written, he'd probably never do it. In fact, there was a certainty that if he didn't do it, he never would feel this way again. He had to act, or he'd simply miss the opportunity. A gentle pressure on the stallion's arm bid him to wait, and as he did, he found himself looking into those same purple eyes from all those years ago. The mare who had those eyes smiled warmly as the stallion looked into them, his heart singing out its victory song once again, the same as it had that one day back in school. The mare raised an eyebrow as the stallion's face broke into a massive smile.
What's got you so happy?
Stallion stole a quick kiss from the orange Pegasus, before it grazed her with an answer.
You! I've dreamed about that note again, and I realize I am the luckiest stallion alive.
Mare just smiled before she stole the kiss back.
No, not the luckiest, the smartest. You did it as a colt what a few stallions can only do when they're adults. You put your heart out into the world, knowing that it would take everything from you. You took advantage of an opportunity that's always available, but it's often the hardest thing in the world to actually do.
There's probably a morale here somewhere. I'll let you find it, though. The end.